And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. We have a returning guest today. Last time we were on, we talked a lot about nutrition and things like that. I kind of got a little nerding out because, I was a PE teacher. I'm a kinesiology student. So I really am interested in dieting, the body, the ways that things react to it. She's a registered dietitian, owner of a world-class nutrition certification called Prosper Nutrition. Jennifer Broxterman is back with us.
Hey guys, so nice to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Glad to have you back. I was revisiting some of our earlier episode, and if you guys haven't checked that out, you can go back and rewatch that one. And we talked a lot about like dieting and things like that. And I remember the toothbrush, I kind of outed myself because I only brush my teeth once a day, but yeah. I do it. And that was kind of the story, of how we do things and how we like our diet habits and like if we blow a diet, right? You want to tell us a little bit, kind of give us a little revamp on that story a little bit.
Yeah. So one of my love languages is to coach in metaphors, analogies, and games, because so many coaches make things boring and then we just like information vomit at a client and it doesn't make it exciting or encouraging or motivating to change your habits. So I find when I storytell and I ask questions, these light bulb moments start to go off. So here's the toothbrush analogy if you missed it in our last podcast. I asked Wes if he brushed his teeth last night, and I'm going to ask you again today. Did you brush your teeth last night?
And again, I'm going to out myself. No, I did not, but I did this morning.
Okay. You did it in the last 24 hours. Maybe to change that question of you brush your teeth in the last 24 hours. Perfect.
Yep.
So if say you missed it last night, talk us exactly through how you handled that. What exactly did you do?
Well, so last night, again, like I said, I have really good teeth, so that's why it's a bad excuse. Some people brush their teeth like 10 times a day, and they always feel clean. So it's not like, except for in the morning after I drink my coffee, it's like disgusting, and I don't want to do it again. So if I walked out of the door without brushing my teeth, I'd be like, oh, I missed that. I'd either come back and do it, or I would make sure that I did it the next day. Like, it's not something that you just like say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm done.
Exactly. Bingo. What you just said is you wouldn't go, oh, well, I blew it. So whatever, this week's a write-off. I'll start Monday. You know what? I'll wait till the holidays are done. It's a really crazy time of year. You shrug it off. You instantly forgive yourself. There's no negative inner bully making you feel bad. And what's cool is you get right back into the healthy habit. You don't skip a beat. You don't overanalyze it. But the little hidden gem we talked about last podcast is that there is the environment shaping your success. And we call this that make the healthy choice the easy choice when I talk about nutrition coaching. So I would wager $1 million bet that you've got toothpaste and a toothbrush somewhere in your master bath, right there accessible to make brushing your teeth easy. If every night your toothbrush was hidden or every night you made homemade toothpaste just from scratch, you would not be as consistent because the environment isn't making it easy. So when we think about the habit triangle, I think about habits on the top, environment just below, and mindset at the very bottom. So the reason brushing our teeth works is you've got this strong habit supported by a positive environment and this mindset of like self-forgiveness, no big deal. I'll get right back into it at the next soonest opportunity. Notice that that's a really winning mindset. Yet for food, think how quickly this unravels. We don't often have supportive environments in our fridge, freezer, pantry. We're kind of going from chaos where we're underprepared. And then when we do make a mistake, we have a mental blow up or we completely give up on a healthy goal and being consistent. And if we can't be perfect, we're not going to do it at all. Imagine if you only brushed your teeth when you brushed and flossed and did everything perfectly, or you never ever brushed at all. Like, we accept imperfect action with brushing our teeth, and we have to be okay to do that with food. So I love coaching in games. I love coaching in metaphors, but that's a quick recap of one of the ones we covered last podcast.
Yeah. And I think that that's really relatable, especially for me. And a lot of times, like, people are watching the podcast and they're talking about, like, they're trying to find tips and tricks of things to continue to be consistent, no matter what it is, whether it's your diet in your life and business or anything like that. And I think that, I relate that story so much to a lot of things. Like I've been doing a daily kind of like live podcast, and it's like, I didn't do it today. I did it yesterday. I did it the day before. Now I have the choice of doing it tomorrow, right? Like, and it's the same thing. It's like I could have brushed my teeth, but I didn't. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Just because I didn't do it today doesn't mean that I can't do it tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe we should play some more games with the audience today if that would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Let's what do you got? I think the metaphor thing is like great because I think that it is highly relatable, and I want to challenge people who are listening to go, hey, how does this relate to me? How can I use this as a tool?
I mean, I always feel as a dietitian, if I start talking about healthy eating and I don't leave you with something extremely practical and action oriented, then I actually just contributed to the chaos on the internet. And what I mean by that is internet chaos is noise, noise, noise. Everyone's screaming from their camp. And often it's a lot of high level theory, but not a lot of very practical day in and day out. How do I apply this to me in my life? So I've always, as a nutrition coach, thought about how do I make it fun, simple, and easy to implement. So I use games and stories as a coach to do that. So you know what? I'm going to pull one from my free masterclass called Lift Off. So earlier this year, I hopped on camera and I just started to record a whole bunch of my funny games and metaphors. And I'm like, I'm just going to give them away to the world for free. And that became Lift Off. So this first one that comes to mind comes from Lift Off, and it's called the apple test. Now, if you don't like apples, insert another healthy food. It could be broccoli, it could be oranges, but we'll use apples for simplicity's sake because it's often equated with nutrition.
Right.
Great test, so simple to tell if you are genuinely hungry is to ask yourself, would I eat an apple in this moment? So you're like, those days where you're like in the refrigerator or you're poking around in the pantry. A really quick way to cut through all the noise is to just go, right now, would I have an apple? And if you're like, yeah, an apple seems really appealing. Maybe I'd have that with a handful of nuts or some yogurt or a piece of cheese. Like that sounds like a great snack. You're hungry. It's time to eat. That is a great cue that your body is needing some energy and some fuel. But if it's like 9:15 at night and you ask yourself the apple test question and you're like, nah, the apple doesn't seem appealing. Now you have to address that you have tongue hunger, like mouth hunger. You want to taste something interesting. You don't have legitimate stomach hunger. And so what we now have to address is, why are you eating? Because it's not actually from a true hunger reason.
Right.
So that's my first layer of when I start to break down stress and emotional eating in my nutrition clients, is I love to plant the apple test. And I'm like, it's so simple, right? Just ask yourself the question, would I eat an apple right now? And if you're like, nope, not interesting to me, now you have an honest answer that you're not actually hungry. And we have some kind of emotional hunger you're trying to feed. And then we can start to address, how do we feed that emotional hunger? Does that make sense? Do you like that?
It does. So again, like you might remember the last time, like every time I listen, I'm like thinking of all these things and I'm trying to figure out how I could make my 10-year-old understand that.
Yeah.
Because
that comes up at a 10-year-old level.
Yeah, exactly. Because like it's all that time. It's like, I'm hungry. I'm like, are you really?
Yeah.
Okay, then go have this. Well, no, I don't want that. Well, then you're not that hungry, because like if you're not going to eat this, but you want to have like chips or you want to have candy or something like that, you're not hungry. You just want something.
You have mouth hunger. You just want the taste of that. Yeah.
Yep.
So short, simple, but that's one really quick game. And then actually that might lead into another really good game. And this is one that I'm really proud that I built, because I think a lot of coaches get this wrong. And what I'm implying is that stress management coaching, a lot of coaches I think have good, genuine intentions to support their clients, but they don't actually set them up for success. So I got the idea when I was watching my husband one day organize his tool chest. So he's in the trades. He's like super into like having the best tools, probably has way too many, but he got one of those like, pack out kits, and he meticulously went through like getting his top drawer, his quick access things that he goes to all the time. And then he's got his deeper drawers of some of the bigger, heftier power tools, or the things that you're just, he's not using the sander necessarily every day. And I had this light bulb moment of like, oh my goodness, this is how stress management needs to be coached. And so I sat down and I drew out, I'll move back a little bit to be on camera, this idea of the top shelf and the deeper layer. So let me back up and differentiate the two differences. When a lot of health coaches, wellness coaches try to promote stress management, they go to best practices. But best practices often have a really big time or buy-in. It might be like, well, you need to just protect your time and schedule going to the gym 3 times a week. You need to get into a meditative practice and meditate maybe 15 to 30 minutes a day, or even 5 minutes. You need to sit down before bed and full on have a gratitude written journal practice. It would be awesome if we got you out in nature and you went for your weekend hike. We really need you to go schedule a massage. Now we're coming into the holiday season. Imagine someone that has, relatives in town staying at their house. Their kid is sick with an illness at home. There's a whole bunch happening, and you're giving these perfect solutions when someone is absolutely drowning. So
Right.
if I go back to the toothbrush metaphor, it's like saying you need to just fit in a full on dentist and teeth cleaning appointment versus asking you to just brush your teeth every day through the month of December. Like one I can do, one I may or may not be able to
Right.
squeeze in. So I realized that the top shelf had to be 1 to 5 minutes max. And all of these are going to be stress management techniques. So I've started to notice in my clients, different people had their cup filled by different buckets of stress relieving. So I have some clients that do really well and respond to breath and calming techniques. So things like just taking 3 slow breaths. Like maybe you're, waiting for the water to boil for a cup of tea. Cool. Take 3 slow breaths. And I might just say like, you're mad in traffic, take 3 breaths. And so the 3 breaths just cues them throughout their day of like, just calm yourself down, take 3 breaths. Or I may have them practice box breathing, which is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and you hold for 4. And I would just count it and cue it out in a real session. And they're like, wow, that felt amazing. And I'm like, cool. You just went on vacation and it took 1 minute. Like you just got the effect of like, but that only took 1 to 3 minutes of your day. Or sometimes, especially if the weather is not too bad, I'm like, just go to a door, open it, and breathe some fresh air for 1 minute. Like just walk to your back door, open it, and start breathing outside air. And people are like, okay, I could do one of those 3. I have some clients that respond much more kinesthetically. And as a former PE teacher, you probably knew those kids in your class who just
Right.
move their body, and some humans are like that. So I decided to give them a move self-calming bucket. And so it's, stretch for 1 minute, move around, do a quad stretch, do some arm swings, maybe like loosen up your lower back if you've been sitting all day, or play a song on your phone and just move and dance around to some music, or put on your shoes and go for a walk around your block. Like what is the shortest loop that you can just go outside for a walk? Maybe you're between meetings and you just need 5 minutes to get outside. So that works really well for my kinesthetic people. I also have a lot of control freaks, and my control freaks freak out when life feels chaotic and overwhelming. And so I recognize that giving them a little sense of control actually help them self-regulate and calm down. So for my control freaks, I have things like put 5 things away. So we call it the tidy 5. So if there are dishes in your sink, put them in the dishwasher. That's 1. If there are shoes strewn about the mudroom, put the shoes back in order in the closet. That's 2. Okay, there is something, a book hanging out on the kitchen table. Put the book in the bag where it needs to go so you can return it to the library or a friend, or put it on the bookshelf or whatever. So you just go around the house and you find 5 quick things and you just put 5 things in order. It is so good for my control freaks when they're like, outer order, inner calm, I feel good. Or we do the microwave tidy, which is where you put 5 minutes on your microwave timer and you just go around the house, puttering around, wiping counters, putting stuff in the dishwasher. You just make the house feel better in a 5-minute commitment. You're not cleaning the whole house for company. 5 minutes is all it takes. So when someone is in a stressful period, I ask them to just pull something once a day from the top drawer. 3 breaths. Cool. You used your top drawer strategy today. Dance to a song. Great. 5-minute tidy. Awesome. Then we go to the deeper layer. So the deeper layer is basically we have breathing calm, move, order and control, but I add in some other deeper layer tools. So this is where I add in love and connection, deep rest, and creativity and joy. And so I'm just going to blast through this list because many of you are maybe driving and listening, and I'll just read you some deeper layer tools. So under breathing calm, we have meditate, journal, a gratitude practice, prayer or personal mantra, maybe scent like essential oils in a relaxing space. Under move, we have go out for a longer walk, maybe do some yoga, get in a workout, go for a hike in nature, really any movement you enjoy. It could be hop on your bike, go biking, could be skateboarding, like truly anything that makes you happy. For order and control, deeper style, we've got give the house a good clean, declutter, or often order and control is a little warning sign that your boundaries are being crossed and you need to better uphold your boundaries. Whether it's you need to be leaving work at time and not staying an hour late for your boss unpaid. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with someone that's been, taking and not giving. But basically digging your heels in and holding a boundary that matters to you. For love and connection, we have call a friend or a family member, play with a pet. Maybe you need to actually book a counseling appointment and just check in on your mental health. Under deep rest, I have, call it an early night, take a bath, a shower, have a nice wind down bedtime routine. Just get to bed early or allow yourself to sleep in because your body's really craving more sleep. Maybe book a massage. Maybe it's actually protect some downtime that's like, this is my time. Nope, I am not available to anyone else. Or maybe you legitimately need a vacation. You need a long weekend. You need a trip. You actually need to get away and just, reset and sharpen the axe. And then finally, a deeper layer stress management tool is all around creativity and joy. When humans get in that flow state and they're creative and they're making things or immersed in art and music, it's just very good for our mental health. So I put down here, really protecting time for a hobby or a creative pursuit, making sure that you're around joyful relationships and joyful people, and just scheduling activities that lift you up. It could be going ice skating. It could be going to the movies. It could be a book club. It could be a dog walk with a really good friend. And so what's so cool is, again, my husband starts organizing his tool chest and I was like, okay, well, I really see what he's doing here because he wants the things he needs to grab all the time to be really accessible.
Right.
So we thought from a stress management, what if we just have people pick one thing a day, top shelf, breathe and calm yourself down, move your body a little bit, or create some order and control. And then what if 1 to 2 times a week, you very intentionally just reflect and look at this deeper layer drawer and you do 1 or 2 things a week from that list. Maybe it's one long nature hike and maybe you have an early bedtime on Friday because you are wiped and you're going to sleep in till 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and it's glorious and you wake up feeling amazing, right? No judgment. It's just like what you need. And so by creating this and printing this out for my clients, and this is the kind of stuff we give away in the certification. So coaches just have plug and play. They don't have to make this from scratch. They're like, because I kept asking my client to go for a hike. I kept asking my client to meditate. I kept asking my client to maybe get some therapy and they're not doing it. And so it has to start brushing your teeth. And then you can go to the dentist and really take care of your teeth because it's the first action that they can actually succeed on.
Yeah. And I love the fact that it's kind of, there's different, we talked about nutrition is kind of one of those things. There's no cookie cutter way for anything. Everyone always says, it's calories in and calories out. Well, that is kind of it, but there's certain ways that those work for different people. Whereas you give them the opportunity that if they are control freak and they need to do this will actually help them because it'll get them through that. And there's just all those options. It's just great to have options for each kind of person.
Well, then it just feels so tailored, right? They're like, oh, I have a coach who is working with me and the way I work. And that's truthfully the reason why most programs fail is coaches get bought into one thing and they get really excited because they see it really working for them or they see it really working for a specific type of client. And they're like, everyone should do this. And then they try to apply it to someone that doesn't jive with them. And they're like, well, you need more willpower. You're just not working hard enough. Right. And that makes me mad because that is lazy, not client-centered coaching. Yeah.
And I mean, that there is different, it's so crazy because even with we're talking about, nutrition coaching, we're talking about life coaching, things like that. But even as a coach in a sport, it's the same thing. It's I can't go yell at Timmy and then go be really nice to Joe and it's no big deal.
Right.
you have to understand that Timmy may freak out, shut down, not going to work for him when you yell at him. And if
Right.
you yell at Joe, it might work. Like
Yeah.
you have to feel those people out, understand where they're coming from. And that's part of being a good coach, is knowing that using the tools in your toolbox the right way.
Right. Yeah. Like, again, if you think of someone in the trades, if you just tried to take a hammer to every single job site and hammer your way through building something, sometimes a hammer is going to be the right tool, but sometimes you need a drill or a saw or a level or whatever. And so again, I think that's the difference between a advanced coach and more of a novice coach. Is the novice coaches fall in love with a tool and then they want to make the tool, round peg, square hole.
Yeah.
They try to force it on everyone. And then they're frustrated because then they're the ones who label their clients as non-compliant. Yep. And it's not necessarily that their client is non-compliant. It's maybe you ask too much of them and you have to shrink the step. Or maybe you're actually coaching too easy and you have to, increase the level of challenge. I think great coaches are so good at knowing who they're working with, assessing what they need. And they always have, I think of it like a general contractor. They just have a really well-equipped tool belt. They're like, I've got something to help you. I've got you. Don't worry. Or I think novice coaches have a more limited toolkit and they fall in love with a tool and they try to get too rammy with that approach.
Yeah. And they never it's the other thing that is really cool too, is like, I can tell in the couple conversations that we've had is that you're always looking for something more. Like, it's not like, okay, this worked this time, but it now it's not working this time. What can we do? How can we advance? What research can we do? How can we make it better? Right? Like, 'cause it's,
you know what? This is such a good segue. Can I play one more game with you that exactly touches on what you just said? Okay, maybe our third game today, we'll call it the 3 voices. And this one really opens people's eyes to problem solving. So I name 3 different voices that live inside of our head. We have the inner bully, we've got the curious detective, and the wise guide. The inner bully is a jerk. It calls you names. You're never good enough. It beats you up, and it's very self-critical. The curious detective goes around and goes, I'm going to look for clues and patterns. And it just has a little notepad, and it just makes observations and starts to notice and name what's going on. When I don't have lunch, I go to the cookies in the break room at 2:00 and had 3 cookies and couldn't stop myself. I noticed that when I stay late at work for 4 nights in a row, I start to order more takeout because I feel too tired to cook. I noticed that when I protect my sleep, it's really easy to get up and go to the gym. So the detective isn't making a judgment. It's just looking for patterns, and it's collecting notes and clues. And my favorite friend of the bundle of 3, his or her name is the wise guide. The wise guide is like that, mountain guide by our side who's going to climb the mountain with us to the top. And it's like, hey, I've got you. I'm never going to forget what your long-term goal is. I know you want to have a happy, healthy relationship with food and exercise and body image. I know you enjoy eating well because it makes you feel good. I know you want to have energy to play with your kids. I also know you don't want to have to be rigid and perfect. You need that flexibility for your crazy life. So the wise guide goes, looking at the facts, looking at the clues, what's the next positive step we can take together to move you a little bit closer to your goal? And it doesn't drag you up the mountain kicking and screaming. It's just like, hey, there's a long staircase. We're going to climb it together. Here is the very next step. I just need you to take one step up. Yeah. And it just is, if you slip, it's like, I'm going to pick you back up. I'm not going to make you feel bad that you slipped on the mountain. Let me give you a hand and get you back to your feet as fast as you can. Cool. Do you need a second? Is there a scrape? Do we got to clean that up? Do you need a moment to catch your breath? Or are you good? Are you ready to take that next step? And it's so cool because when you can actually see that 3 voices are in our heads, half the time you're like, oh my God, why do I let my bully just walk around screaming at me all day? Bullying never motivates someone to be better. It creates short-term frantic action followed by feeling overwhelmed, feeling defeated when you screw up, and then people stop and they sit on the sidelines. Where if you can just be curious about your scenario, that's why I love the toolbox game. Because I might say, wow, the month of December is a really stressful month. The gym's still important, but maybe I can only go 2 to 4 times a week, not 4 to 6 times a week. And I'm going to say that's okay. But then on the days I can't go, can I maybe dance to some music? Can I get out for a walk around the block? Can I lower my standards, but still brush my teeth? And
Yeah.
so
That's
my being like, you got company coming, there's a lot on the go. It's going to be a little more challenging. And then the wide guys goes, I got you. What's attainable? What's realistic? What can you do? As opposed to the bully going, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. So there really is an orchestra of three voices chattering in our heads. But can we increase the volume of our curious detective and our wise guide? And I just think of it like we're going to duct tape the mouth of the bully and we're going to shove it in the trunk of the car and not let it out if we can.
It's funny because as you're saying that, I'm just like thinking like, okay, so we can do this. Like just because we can't do the big goal, we can do something else. And I was thinking the same thing. It's like it's the brushing the teeth. Like my brain goes right back to it because it is as easy as that if you think about it. And that's what people need to understand is like, just because you bomb it doesn't mean that you can't go back and do it again. As you were talking about the staircase, I was thinking about like you fall down the staircase. Just because you fell down doesn't mean that the stairs aren't there anymore. Doesn't mean that you can't go up. Yeah. You could go down, but you could still go back up. It's like it's a mental game. That's all it is. Yeah. Well, that's great. I think this has been real fun having you back again, and I definitely will. You always have an open invite here, and sharing some of the things that you're working because I really love it. I think it's very enjoyable. But before we go, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new coaching class that you have going on?
Yeah. So I've been working super hard the last couple of years, and I've decided to film and share every one of my metaphors, games, handouts, and just elevate coaches in the wellness, fitness, and nutrition coaching space so that if they want to really ramp up their nutrition skills, they've got the tools to be able to do so. So the certification is called Prosper Nutrition Coaching. I take on a few times a year a small cohort of students that they get one-on-one mentoring. They get to go through all the course material, and they literally walk away with plug and play resources, just like the ones we went through today, where they can start to use them with their own clients. So I have a wait list if you want to jump on it, if you go to prospernutritioncoaching.com. But I always believe in leading with value first. So I built a free little mini nutrition masterclass called Lift Off. And it takes little snippets from the certification and gives you a small amount of those resources, games, and metaphors. So you can experiment and try them with the people you coach. See if you like that style before you even have to commit to anything further. So if you want to go to prospernutritioncoaching.com/liftoff, I hope that can be my gift to you listeners here. If you like the idea of talking in stories and playing games as a way to lighten up and just refresh the coaching approach that you're taking.
And it's great too. You can go there. There's a lot of other resources too, right? You just recently started putting podcast interviews on there too, right?
So I did. We're right on there as well.
Yeah, you may not, maybe you don't like listening to mine. Maybe you want to go check out another one, or maybe you need some more. There's plenty of it out there. And the thing that I think that a lot of people get lost on is that, it's going to cost me money to find a resource. It's not. Podcasts are free. You can find that information anywhere. You just got to search for it and be looking for it.
Yeah. So I always believe, like, again, that phrase of make the healthy choice the easy choice. So I just am such a believer in abundance of like, give freely to the world, lift others up, pull out the chair at the table and say, come sit at, come into the big leagues. Like there is a ton of impact we can have as coaches in our clients' lives. I've been at this nearly 14 years now. And so there's a lot I've created that I just want to now start to share. So I just put a page on my website that is entirely called freebies, like prospernutritioncoaching.com/freebies. Download to your heart's content. There's resources, there's email scripts, there's games, there's the nutrition masterclass, because I didn't want people to have to work all over the internet to track it down. So I was like, make it easy, like put the veggie bucket front and center in the fridge. So I was like, put the freebies front and center and just give them away. And the response from the coaching community has been just so positive and lovely. And I just feel, especially, I won't get into it, but since going through cancer, it's just so important to be generous and to give and to share and leave a good impact on the world. And even if I never maybe get to work with you, I hope I can deliver value in one way, shape, or form.
Well, we appreciate you coming back, and it's been fun as it was the last time. I encourage you guys to go listen to the last episode too, because it's just nutrition and health and those things are something that we deal with on a daily basis, and having some tools to help you to move forward in that is just great. So thanks again, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, that is the end of the show. It was a really good interview. Like I said, go check out the last one. Really good. If you want to join the Patreon and help support the show, you can do that. Go to westankersley.com. Check it out. Join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You can get some bonus coverage, some extra episodes and things like that only Patreons get. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.